Welcome. I can say the same thing again because I said it before and you've all forgotten it. It's been so long. We have with us this evening 4 candidates vying for 2 seats on the new Providence Borough Council. Before introducing the candidates, I have a few reminders and will explain the format for the evening. One way that the League provides information about election and candidates to voters can be found at vote411.org. All voters need to do is go to vote411.org, enter their address, and click submit. I also need to announce that any use of the League name or footage from this forum in campaign materials, literature, or advertising of any kind, including internet, social media, cable, television, or radio, has not been authorized by the League of Women Voters. Doing so is in violation of the League of Women Voters policy. Any rebroadcast of this forum must be in its entirety. I don't even know if anybody's going to see this rebroadcast. We have many problems to deal with, but the format is as it was with the mayoral race. Each candidate will give a brief opening statement. Then the candidates will be asked pre-screened questions in rotating order. All candidates will have the opportunity to answer each question. Each candidate will be given a set time to answer the questions by a person sitting up front. After all candidates have responded to a question, a rebuttal will be allowed but not required by each candidate. We also want to remind you that this should be the only recording and there shouldn't be any other recordings in the audience, please. I do see someone with phones up. I realize that a picture may have been taken once or twice, but please put it down. I really don't want you recording it. Thank you, and shut it off. Okay. I don't know if there are any others probably behind your back or under your legs or under your foot, but I'm asking you nicely to not do it, okay? Thanks. I've been doing this for a very long time, and this is even with recordings, and this is the first time this has ever happened. I'm sorry, it's my fault, there's no one else to blame. The guy didn't know there were 2, I guess. I didn't hire him, but that's okay, I'm in charge, right? Anyway, there are 4 candidates for new Providence Borough Council general election. The candidates are Diane Beliska, Tommy DiCadalto. Is that how you say it, Tommy? Sorry. Rupa Kale and Alexander Kogan. All right. We will begin with the opening statement of Diane Beliska.
Do we pledge first?
That was not in the format, and you all saw the format before. So, nope, we're just going to go on as we did with the mayor. Please. That's all right. Thank you.
Am I on?
You're on.
Yeah. Thank you to the League and everyone here. Some of you know me as Diane Pereira. My children have gone through the New Providence schools. I've worked on numerous PTA committees over the years, including serving as the high school PTSA president for 5 years, and one of the marching band moms who serve our kids food. Some know me as Miss Diane, if I taught your kids at the rec. Some as that woman who collects sandwiches at OLP. Coach, Coach P, or even Mom Coach have been used. Mommy Pereira or simply Diane. And now, all of you know my secret identity, Diane Beliska, my legal name, since serving on Borough Council for the last year. I grew up in Union, the youngest of 3 children. My father's death when I was 10 shaped many things in my life. It taught me to never take things for granted, the benefits of a close-knit community, and always helping others. I worked and studied hard and was fortunate to be able to go to college, then worked in public accounting and finance. My husband and I got married 26 years ago, bought a house in New Providence, and it has been a thrilling journey ever since. I have been asked many times in our community to step up to help or serve, most recently when I was asked to fill a seat on Borough Council. Working on Borough Council has been a tremendous experience. As the committee chair for administration, I have gotten to know and understand the inner workings of our borough. I am the liaison for the Board of Ed and Historical Society, vice chair of our shared services and legal and regulatory committees, and co-liaison for the diversity and beautification committees. I am eager to continue the work that I have just begun as a councilwoman. We have a true team that works together and values input. This town is a wonderful place to live and raise a family. People change, grow, and mature, and so does a community. We can always do more. I love to welcome the new and celebrate the history. With my extensive volunteer work on many committees and organizations over the past 26 years, I am confident I can continue to serve New Providence to give back to a town that has given my family so much.
Thank you. Next is Tommy DiCataldo.
Thank you. Much better the second time.
Thank you. We learn by experience.
Good evening, everybody. I want to begin by thanking the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight, as well as my colleagues Alex Kogan and Councilwoman Beliska. I also want to thank everybody that's here tonight to hear what we have to say and for your patience. I know there was a bit of a delay. Over the course of this evening, I'd like for everyone to really just get a chance to know who I am and what I'm about. My name is Tommy DiCataldo. Nailed it the second time. I grew up in this area in Scotch Plains. I've lived in this community for my entire life. As a child, my experience in New Providence was to come here and lose basketball games to OLP several times per year, and that would continue as I became a coach. So I have very fond memories of this community. Anyone that's interested can see me at the municipal gym on Wednesday nights, continuing to lose basketball games now in the town. But in all seriousness, there was nowhere else that my family and I wanted to live. We only looked in this area when we got married and chose to buy a home. We bought a starter home in Berkeley Heights. I've lived in this area for a decade, and in 2020 we moved to New Providence, and I have absolutely no intention of ever leaving. I don't think I could stress strongly enough how welcomed and excited we've been to live in this community. My children have started in the school system here, and it's just such an incredible place, and everyone here is so warm, and we've made friends so easily, and it's just a wonderful community to be a part of. I am a father to 3 children, age 6, 4, and 1. My daughter is a first grader at AWR, and I would ask all of you to pray for the staff at AWR when my boys enter that school system, because they may need to rework the bond referendum to have contingencies for them. You will find us all over New Providence. My kids are in the rec programs. We're at the pool in the summer. We subsidize Zita's in the Prestige Diner. In my professional life, I am a small business owner and a owner of a law firm in Montclair. I do all matrimonial and divorce law, and I have appeared in every court system in New Jersey, and I'm eager to bring that experience to the Borough Council and use my professional experience to help this community.
Thank you. Rupa Kale.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting and moderating, and to the Councilwoman and Alex for participating. My name is Rupa Kale, and this is my second time running for Borough Council. Some of you may be wondering, what's she doing here again? After I ran back in 2018, I was repeatedly encouraged and supported by so many residents in the borough to keep at it. So here I am. In fact, since 2018, not much has changed for me. I am still New Providence's chief cheerleader and a passionate volunteer in the community. I'm still part of the diversity committee and was honored to serve on the economic development committee. Over the years, I've hosted and supported many events in the community, including clothing and toy drives, fundraisers to benefit the CSA and our local businesses, a medical supply drive for Ukraine, Earth Day town cleanups, and I'm especially proud of being part of the vaccine drive to get hundreds of seniors in our community vaccinated. I've spearheaded and participated in several vigils and rallies supporting our police, fire, emergency services, and I organized the International Village at the Winter Walk, among others. I founded and moderate the New Providence Community Forum on Facebook. It is a virtual space that helps foster connection and creates an environment of support for almost 7,000 borough residents, businesses, and employees. In the 8 years that it has been active, the forum has allowed for exchange of information, support, celebration, and meaningful discourse during difficult times, especially COVID. New Providence has been my home for 13 years. My boys currently attend AWR, where I have been an enthusiastic volunteer with the PTA for the past 8 years. I'm excited and honored for this opportunity, and I look forward to the questions.
Thank you. All right, Alexander Kogan.
Call me Alex. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for having this event. My wife and I, Barbara, have resided in New Providence for 17 years, married 26 years, just like Diane. And like many of you, we moved here from New York City seeking a safe, quiet community with great amenities and great schools. Our 2 sons were raised here in New Providence, both graduating Roberts, New Providence Middle School and High School. I'm a parent, a coach, a volunteer, and an active resident of our amazing community. Throughout my time in New Providence, I found many ways to give back, and regardless of the outcome of this election, I'll continue to do so. I was president of New Providence Soccer Club for almost 10 years, which had a membership of about 500 kids. I've served on the New Providence Communities Activities Advisory Board for 11 years. This is the oversight committee for the Recreation Department and the Senior Center. And I'm currently serving on the New Providence Zoning Board of Adjustments for 3 years and counting. I have a degree in electrical engineering from Bucknell University, go Bison, and an MBA in management from Baruch College. Throughout my 28 years in the engineering field, I've been fortunate to serve many academic, research, and cultural institutions like the Rockefeller University, Museum of Natural History, and Lincoln Center. I currently manage and operate 2 million square feet of laboratory residential space in New York City with about 180 full-time employees, all happen to be essential staff. Throughout my career, I've been committed to energy reduction, power plant efficiency, and sustainability. I've managed over $1 billion of capital projects throughout my career, receiving several awards. Most recently, I led the LEED Gold certification for a very large research complex, and those interested in sustainability would appreciate how hard that is to accomplish. My reason for running for council is to keep our community thriving while focusing on fiscal responsibility, safety, and infrastructure. Our mayor and council have done a phenomenal job making New Providence one of the best small towns in New Jersey, and I simply want to help by leveraging my engineering experience to make New Providence even better than it is today.
Thank you. All right, it is now time for the questions. First question, what do you consider the most important challenge facing New Providence? How do you propose to address it? Candidate DeCaltado? Let's start with you, Tommy.
I'm gonna say pronouncing my last name apparently.
I'm not from here.
I think that the most challenging issue facing New Providence at the moment is really not something that falls within the purview of Borough Council. I think the issues with the Board of Education are very important, and I would encourage all of our voters to pay attention to those issues and to educate themselves and make informed decisions in November. I also think that this election is very important. There's been tremendous enthusiasm behind the fact that we have a contested election here in New Providence, and 4 people up here tonight that are committed and impassioned about serving this community. That has not been the case year after year in this community. And I think it's exciting to see so many people in the room tonight. It's exciting to have 4 intelligent viewpoints, assuming mine qualifies as intelligent. And I just think it's great for the community that we have this many people out here and this kind of excitement for November. And I hope the voters turn out and make the decisions as to who they want to represent them.
Thank you. Rupa Kale?
I'd like to say, oops, I keep forgetting to turn it on. I'd like to say that of talking to hundreds of people and constantly having my pulse on the community, it feels like the biggest issue right now that seems to be of concern is construction and housing and the impact it's going to have on our traffic, our infrastructure, school, water, electricity, all of the above. And people are spooked and a little concerned. So I feel like that's a really big challenge that we need to just plan for and proactively work towards. And that's what I believe is one of the biggest challenges facing New Providence.
Thank you. Diane Belitska?
Thank you. I agree with my opponents. I think that high-density housing is actually one of the biggest challenges that we are facing, which is a court-mandated challenge, and New Providence has always been on the forefront of meeting all of our challenges and meeting our obligations. But in addition to that, what will happen is our infrastructure will be impacted by high-density housing. So I think that our challenge would be to stay on top of, because New Providence has done a good job of dealing with our infrastructure, but to stay on top of dealing with our infrastructure and the traffic patterns, which we have all known are changing, but they are also being monitored very well.
Thank you. Candidate Cogan?
Thank you. Not to be redundant and have more time for questions, I'll agree that high-density housing is by far the biggest challenge to our town. I think the Borough Council and the Mayor have done a phenomenal job of getting rezoning the the district in order to put high-density housing in a particular area away from residents. But of course, as Councilwoman Belisca said, the impact to our water sewer, our utilities, our schools, the school has gotten a demographer, so they're addressing that issue. But it's here, and we just have to adapt. And I think my background, Diane's background, are well equipped to lead the way in adapting to the high-density housing that's coming our way. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next question. New Providence has a 10-year plan. What additions or modifications would you make to that plan to improve quality of life for all and make the town safer for pedestrians, bicyclists, the elderly, some of which use scooters and wheelchairs? Would you change street traffic patterns and make changes to the parking lots at town stores? Diane Belisca, it's going to you first.
Well, I keep getting the hot seat here. That was a lot of questions in one.
Yeah.
So yes, we do have a master plan. It's a great master plan. Quality of life for all. We just did, and I actually worked on it. It was One Community for All for Patricia Jacobs had spearheaded that, and based on all of the extensive work that we did, New Providence now has a AARP rating certification. Parking in our parking lots in town, they're actually, unfortunately, not borough owned, so we can't really change any traffic patterns. One thing that I always tell my kids, who all three of them have just started driving in the past 3 years, is be kind and be cognizant of other people. So we live in a small town. To keep our small town feel, maybe we should all also just try to be cognizant of each other and be kind. And look both ways before you drive.
Thank you. Alexander Cope.
Yes, the quality of life extremely important to our town. I think it's great to see that our downtown is thriving, but like many of you, when I go to that area, I'm on alert. There's so much traffic, so many people. Creating a safer environment is definitely key for us. Just to mention, none of us on this podium or on council are really gonna make a decision to change traffic patterns. You have to rely on traffic engineers, consultants, and people that actually do this for a living. And we have to value their input, get community feedback, and make the proper decision. But as I said, I'm happy. It's a good problem to have the downtown thriving. But definitely it's going to be an important job to have people qualified to look at what the consultants are telling you and make the proper decision.
Thank you. Rupert Kale.
Traffic and safety. Look, we've got a lot of low-hanging fruit. We've got a broken bridge that has filtered lots and lots, hundreds of cars, extra cars, creating conditions for pedestrians and children at AWR. We've received more than $1 million in grants from Safe Routes to School between 2016, 18, 21. We had a county infrastructure grant. There's stuff happening, but we don't really know exactly what. I know there are street names out there, sidewalks being put in, but it's not happening fast enough. And I think creating safe streets really comes down to what are we doing in terms of creating walkable environment for our residents and children. We need a more clear plan put out there. We've had kids still unable to walk to school on a sidewalk after, a decade of Cecil Seth and Donna Zane working on the Safe Routes to School. We received $1.3 million from the American Rescue Plan between 21 and 22. So that's what I'd like to see applied.
Thank you. Tommy DiCataldo.
Perfect, thank you.
Welcome.
I think there's sort of two questions in one here. Where do we want to see our community go in 10 years, and how are we going to manage the safety of our streets? And the question's posed from the vantage point of seniors, but I think it affects everyone. I mean, all of us that have gone to the downtown or gone to our schools in the morning, I've seen cars screech to a stop and almost hit a kid in a crosswalk. It is scary at the schools in the morning. I think there's a balance to be found here between, improving and enacting a downtown plan while not jeopardizing, congestion, pedestrian safety, and traffic safety. And some of our surrounding towns struggle with this. You know, at times, you look at a town like Westfield, it can operate like Midtown Manhattan at certain times, and I don't think we wanna compromise the integrity of what we have as a wonderful downtown, just, you know, without thought as to how we're enabling our citizens to walk and bike, whether they're seniors or children. I think there's a balance between improvement and safety, and we would certainly fight for that.
Thank you. Yes, Diane, rebuttal, or 30 extra seconds.
Yeah, I just wanted to address some of the things that somebody had said. When we have Safe Routes to School, and we have done a wonderful job, Cecile Seth and Donna Zane, we're spearheading that, our town has gotten involved. We do have grants out there, but there are engineers and studies and different things that when you're a government, you have to go through all these steps, and it doesn't take 2 seconds, it takes a long time. I would love to have a magic wand and say, boom, do it. And certain things like, sorry.
It's okay. Anyone else? All right, we're on to the next question, and this one sounds familiar. When New Jersey legalized marijuana, New Providence voted against having a cannabis store in town. Would you be willing to consider revisiting that subject to increase shopping traffic for all town businesses and improve tax revenue? Alex Cogan, you're first.
Sure, I'm not gonna act like a politician here and give you an honest answer. It's great to live in a town that has almost 100% occupancy in our downtown district. We have a thriving business community. This issue isn't gonna come up for another few years in 2025. I personally don't see any need for a cannabis store in our quaint little town. As the mayor said in the prior debate, let's just see what happens and learn from the other neighboring towns, and revisit that when the time comes. But at the moment, I would not support it.
Thank you. Yeah. Tommy DiCataldo.
Thank you. I mean, the question as posed is, would I support revisiting the issue? I think the answer to that is yes, in the sense that I would want to take a look at it and see whether there's a benefit to our community. I would in no way, shape, or form right now commit to wanting that business in our community necessarily, but I don't think there's ever a reason to not consider something that might have a possible benefit, even if you ultimately don't decide to support that. So I would be open to revisiting the issue, but certainly not committing to wanting to see that in our community.
Thank you. Diane Belitska.
Thank you. I would tend to agree with always revisiting something, always looking, and I think that Borough Council, in my experience on Borough Council, that's what we do. We never just say no or never. We always revisit, we look, we re-examine, we talk, we welcome opinions. You can also just go down to Route 22 and go to one of the cannabis stores there. And I agree with my running mate, I would rather try to make this town a safer place to be and not welcome people who are going to make our traffic more congested if we don't need to.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
I
Rupa, sorry, Rupa Kale, sorry.
Thank you.
I need to.
I feel like this cannabis ship has sailed. The decision point was back then, and there's just really, it's a saturated market right now. There must have been hundreds of applications, and we're done with it. Like, let's move on. I do feel like there are lots of other categories that don't necessarily sell marijuana at a storefront, and if that opportunity came up in the future, I think the borough should look into what kind of revenue that might bring in, whether it's a warehouse, distribution, there are multiple categories. So I'd be open to revisiting it, but right now, I think there are bigger things for us to focus on in New Providence.
Yes, go ahead, rebuttal.
I just want to quickly add too that, I mean, I think the issue also goes beyond cost and revenue entirely. We want to hear from the public and whether the community supports that business or entirely rejects it. I think the public's opinion on that issue would be important to me if I were elected.
Anyone else? All right, we can go on to the next question now. Senior citizens require one-floor housing at a reasonable cost. What would you propose to keep our seniors in the town they lived in, raised their children, made a life here, and now require modified housing? Would you support building additional homes for just these seniors? Tommy DiCataldo, you're first.
I can't think of any reason why I wouldn't support that. I mean, it's certainly a noble concept to try to keep our seniors here. I know as a state as a whole, it's often difficult for people in retirement settings to remain in New Jersey, and there's only so much as a local municipality we could do to control that. But to answer the question, I mean, there's no reason that would cause me to instinctually oppose that request. Certainly, we would want to keep our seniors here and keep our community intact. We'd have to take a look at everything that went into that.
Thank you. Rupa Kale.
Absolutely. I mean, we have Lantern Hill, which has been growing, provided it is not exactly in the category of affordability. Why not? I think if it also satisfies our affordable housing mandate and satisfies those numbers, why not? I would love to see home created. We're trying to convince our parents to move here to New Providence, and they require one level living now. Are they gonna let go of the house they've been in for 45 years? I don't know, but I think all of us would love our parents to live close by, so it's something I absolutely would support.
Thank you. Diane Belitska.
I was going to make some snide remark about me liking older people. My mom just turned 95 recently, so I would absolutely love to have my mom here, but she won't leave her house. She's too independent. The borough actually has a plan. Some of the properties on Mountain Avenue has been zoned for an over 55 and over community, which actually does meet some of our high density housing numbers. So in the long term, that is included in the plan. It will be done, and hopefully, you know, a lot of our parents will be able to benefit from that. And we can always benefit from relationships with every member of the community. A lot of people have very rich stories to tell, and you know, I think it's always a benefit.
Thank you. Alexander Cohen.
Do you mind just repeating the question? I want to make
Not
sure
at
I
all.
answer.
All right. Senior citizens require one floor housing at reasonable cost. What would you propose to keep our seniors in the town that they lived in, raised their children, made a life here, and now require modified housing?
Thank
Would
you. I get it. So a lot of the builders, the council doesn't manage the free market of building homes. Of course, I would support it. And I can tell you just from my background on the New Providence Zoning Board of Adjustments, we see a lot of applications. The last 2 years have been quite phenomenal, the amount of applications. And a lot of people are converting their homes to first floor bedrooms. We take a look at these very seriously because a lot of people want to build large homes next to these small homes that are made for welcoming more for ranch homes that are more welcoming for senior citizens. And we actually, a lot of builders come in and say, we want to build big, but we actually make sure and that the house fits properly into the neighborhood and make sure that we have enough inventory to keep going, to keep attracting senior citizens to this town, because ranches are very hard to find nowadays. But we're doing a good job on the zoning board with that respect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next question. How do you plan to maintain property taxes while meeting the increasing needs of the residents, and what budget items would you recommend to be increased or decreased? Would this include joint ventures with neighboring jurisdictions to improve services and lower expenditures?
Can you repeat that?
Of course, it's long.
Yeah,
That's what
it's
my
like
eyes
7
were-
questions.
Yeah, again, how do you plan to maintain property taxes while meeting the increasing needs of the residents? And what budget items would you recommend be increased or decreased? So we're talking about maintaining property taxes by increasing or decreasing something. And then, of course, as a follow-up is, would this include joint ventures with neighboring jurisdictions to improve services and lower expenditures? So we're trying to bring in new things, but yet maintain property taxes. All right. Yes, Belitska, you're first.
I'm going again?
You're first.
Hey, it's gonna be me every single time, I guess. So our property taxes have basically several different components. The Board of Ed is about 56%, county is about 22%, our library gets 1.5%, and our municipal taxes are 21, whatever percent that is. Obviously, we can't do anything about the Board of Ed, we can't do anything about the county, we can do something about our New Providence taxes. New Providence taxes, of the bucket that we have, only about 2% are movable, because you have salaries, benefits, pension, debt services, garbage, recycling, utilities. I actually happen to be on the Shared Services Committee in the borough already. We actually were called the poster children of shared services by Union County. We have a really, really close relationship with Union County. We have shared services like you would not believe. We actually have a joint court with Summit and Berkeley Heights. We use the brining machine in Summit. We have lending programs. We will also have mutual aid for our first responders. So that's my time.
Thank you. Alexander Kogan.
Everything Diane said. I think Diane eloquently explained how our taxes are broken down, but it's a challenging year during COVID. It's been real difficult. If anyone attended the budget presentation that the Borough Council had, we have reduced revenue in the last few years due to COVID, due to loss in some of the municipal court fees, interest on our investments as a town. Parking permits are down, hotel taxes are down. So it's challenging. I don't know, obviously you'd have to take a look and see what you can cut, but it's also gonna be a real challenge of what we can improve, and we're all about improving. It's nice to know that the borough has done a phenomenal job of being fiscally responsible. I believe New Providence is third amongst our peers with the tax increases that we have. And I think we have to continue to look at everything with a fine-tooth comb, just like we do with our own personal finances, and just keep New Providence in a good financial and stable place. Thank you.
Thank you. Rupa Kale.
So, we have, essentially we need to build relationships with the county to get more grant money. A large portion of our taxes goes to the county, and we're probably dead last compared to some of the neighboring towns of what actually comes back. We need to look into see what kind of funding we can get from the Inflation Reduction Act or the infrastructure bill, which some of our neighboring towns have benefited from. We've had an influx of money from some of the grants over the last couple of years because of COVID. So yes, shared services and all of that, but we've also seen increased revenue from permitting, from people building, construction, additions to houses. I just think having a fine-tooth comb and a fresh set of eyes never hurt anybody. While our portion may be tiny, there's always room for improvement. At least that's the accountant in me thinking that.
Okay, thank you very much. Tommy DiCataldo.
I agree with Councilwoman Beliska. Certainly there's a realm within which New Providence can control the property taxes our residents pay. Within that realm, there are things that can be done to try to help our constituents. For example, many taxpayers in our town are eligible for the anchor rebate program, where they could receive as much as $1,500 based on certain income thresholds. One thing I think our representatives could be doing is making our constituency aware of that. There's things you can control and things that you can't control. I think all the candidates up here generally agree that we need to take advantage of grants. We need to take advantage of shared services. These are things that are going to improve the tax situation within that realm that we can control. The last thing is, I think that our residents should have greater transparency on the contracts the borough is entering into, where certain revenue is going, because that generally just promotes transparency and comfort with the taxes our constituents are paying.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Alex.
Just a follow-up there. I failed to mention the triple bond rating that the borough currently has. A lot of people don't understand that. We're always talking about it. But that allows the borough to borrow money for various capital improvement projects. It probably, not having that rating, it allows people to compete to give us money or to lend us money. And that's really important, and that is a sign of how well financially stable our borough finances are. And I think it's important to keep that rating. Thank you.
Anyone else? 30 seconds, go ahead, Ms. Beliska.
Yes, I just wanted to reiterate the excellent relationship we have with the county. We actually had a meeting with the county regarding shared services, and they had such a great meeting with us. They actually, other than calling us the poster child, they actually are going to go around Union County and meet with all those other people. The anchor rebate, Michelle Massacutis, who used to be on council, she actually has already put that out there, so I think that there's a lot of transparency. And we're always looking to cut things, and obviously, like the finance person and all of us, and the parents in us, and the, all the inflation, everybody's looking to cut costs.
Thank you.
Anywhere we can.
Anyone else? All right, let's go to the next one. How would you improve the communication between borough officials and residents, especially transparency in hiring, budget, salary, and general borough expenses, and transparent vetting of candidates for consultant and contractor positions, hiring the most qualified candidate and not a political appointment? Again, this is a long one. If you want it repeated, let me do that again. How would you improve communication between the borough officials and the residents, especially transparency in hiring, budget, salary, and general borough expenses? Transparent vetting of candidates for consultant and contractor position, hiring the most qualified candidate, not a political appointment. Alexander Kogan, it's up to you.
Sure. I've attended many borough council meetings, and it's amazing the amount of information that you get if you attend the meeting. It's all clear cut. You can see the multiple bids that are given out to certain projects, different vendors that are being used. It's all there for the taking, and at the same time, you can find that all on the borough website. Sometimes I agree it might be difficult to find, but all that information is there. Hiring contractors and hiring employees, of course that's important. Everything needs to be vetted. Probably in a municipal government, you're sometimes limited on the lowest bidder. So of course, I think, especially on the construction front, my background could be definitely leveraged to see who's telling the truth and who's not when it comes to construction. But I think the borough is extremely transparent. You just have to attend a borough council meeting to see it.
Thank you. Tommy Cataldo?
Thank you. I think there's a couple responses to this question. I mean, one thing that's popped up for me as I've sort of campaigned for this position is people say, oh, congratulations, you're running for council. Who's on the council? And I think that's concerning that the public is, I mean, to some extent maybe misinformed, but we need to do a better job of involving the public. And the mention of the website, one example is the council's meeting Tuesday night. As of this morning, the agenda for that meeting is not on the website. So none of our residents know what's going to be discussed at that meeting. So we can say that they should be there and they should inform themselves, but if they don't know what the meeting's about, well, there's really no reason for them to want to attend. And we actually saw this manifest at the last council meeting. A resident came to discuss the downtown development plan and wanted a public discussion on the topic and was told that happened 6 years ago. That's concerning. I mean, that shouldn't happen. And everyone in this room and everyone on the council is doing it because they care about this community. And I think the best answer I can give you to the question is we need to make sure the community is involved. There's links on the website that lead to blank pages. We can't have that.
Thank you. Diane Belitska?
Several things, because I'm not going to reiterate what was already said, but regarding the agenda is posted 5 days before, usually by the Friday before. So it's every other week is usually our meeting, so I think that's pretty sufficient time to see the agenda. Transparency in hiring, my running mate Alex had made a comment, there are different tiers of what we need to, going out for bids is what I was going to talk about. There is a whole process, we follow the process, we're a government agency, we have to follow the rules, we don't just make it up as we go along. We have to follow X, Y, and Z for however many bids that we're going out to. And our borough administrator does an amazing job with that. And communication, there is so much communication out there that you have to look for it sometimes, but we do have a lot of communication out there.
Thank you. Rupa Kale.
Communication's my jam. I mean, I do this all day, every day, and I feel like I'm the new Providence Google at times. People randomly will call me, message me, ask me all kinds of questions because they generally can't find it on the website. And I've been, if anybody's known me, I've been complaining about the website and the lack of information, broken places, can't find stuff for years. I'm a broken record when it comes to that. We need to overhaul. The website needs to change. The mayor agrees that they're looking into changing it, but this has been going on for years. I am all for transparency and oversight, and I just want a clear process. Put everything out there, put the budget out there, put the details, let everybody and all taxpayers and residents see what's happening. The greater, the better the more transparency it is, the greater oversight we have, the better we function. So I'm all for it, and you know, have things out there early enough, give people enough notices, have people come look versus, you know, sometimes the bare minimum that sunshine laws require. I would love to see things just out there for everyone to see all the time.
Thank you. Yes, Alex, you have a rebuttal?
Just a quick rebuttal. Getting prepared for this forum tonight, looking at the finances. If you want to see the borough finances, I was able to find the last 17 years of all the approved budgets. So it's there, and I agree with Rupa, it needs some overhauling, but at the same time, me finding it might be a little easier than an 85-year-old parent of mine that might want to look. But the information's there. It's very much readily accessible, and if you really need it, I think you can find it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, go ahead, Diane.
Just to also bounce off of that, our town is teeny tiny. You see us all over the place. Some of my friends on social media, which I'm not usually on social media, but they say you're everywhere, you have your picture everywhere, Al's everywhere. Our numbers are on the website. Anybody can contact us at any time. I really actually have had people do that at any time. And we do follow all the sunshine laws and all the rules and regulations of a governing body, so.
Thank you. Tommy, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just want to quickly point out, you know, when everyone was asked in both forums what the most important issue facing New Providence was, a common theme was high-density housing and affordable housing. But on the borough's website, if you click on the update on the projects link for the C.R. Bard property, as Harry mentioned earlier, it's a blank page. I mean, there's no information. It's been a blank page for weeks. So that's an easy fix.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question. Heard this before too. New Providence has a community garden. Would you actively push for funding to expand the garden and increase availability for the community? Rupa, you're first.
I would love that if it was possible. Look, we need to explore ways. There's clearly a demand for it. I know that I've heard it from the Sustainability Committee that there is a demand and need, especially during COVID when everybody was growing vegetables and flowers and everything else. We do have a need. I think that we as a community can dig deep and look a little harder to find ways to expand the garden. Doesn't have to be in its spot. Maybe it could be somewhere else, an extension. But I don't see why not. I'm always open to looking for solutions rather than saying we can't do it because we can't expand that spot.
Thank you. Alexander Kogan.
I love gardening. I would, I'm just having this question. It's just amazing to live in a town where we're talking about expanding community gardens. I think it's terrific. Yes, of course I would support expanding it. I think there's a demand, but there's a lot of other demands in town and people need to come, voice their opinions, tell us what needs to be done. Obviously, we have to look at the feasibility. Do we put it there? Do we expand it somewhere else? But it seems to be a thriving activity, and of course, I would support it if the funding was available and we did all the feasibility assessments that are required to expand it.
Thank you. Tommy?
Yes, I agree. I think that, you know, as a borough, we've committed to being greener, to promoting our sustainability. And I know we tout that we have a bronze rating. Improving the community garden would help with that rating, and Berkeley Heights has a silver rating, so I think we can try to do better. It certainly has to make sense in the landscape of everything that it would entail. I heard the mayor comment earlier that it might infringe on the t-ball and soccer fields. I mean, those are the fields my kids are on. there's nothing unique to that. I mean, it's a lawn. We could probably find another location to house those recreational activities. So I would certainly support it looking into this, and I think all of us seem to be encouraged at the idea of expanding the gardens.
Thank you. Diane?
I have nightmares about having to go into my garden as a young kid and weed every day after dinner. I'm really kidding. I love gardening too, and I love the fact that the community garden was an Eagle Scout project because I have 2 Eagle Scouts. One of the things that I really like to do is take my experiences and close loops, create synergies. And one of the things that I was fortunate enough to be involved in was a ribbon cutting at the United Methodist Church. They created a garden on the side of the church. And one thing that would be wonderful is to try to create certain things like that in different parts, thinking out of the box, having different community gardens, not just at the one site. So I think several of us have said that. I think that's wonderful. And the other thing is we listen to the residents. So if you have any ideas about this, have any ways that you think that we could, bounce off of a community garden like the one that the Methodist Church did, that would be wonderful.
Thank you. All right, this will be the last question for the evening. If you are elected as a council member, will your responsibilities as an elected official, what will be your first priority? Tommy, you're first.
I'm an attorney by trade, so I think when I think about serving on the Borough Council, I really think of New Providence and the community essentially becoming a client of mine, someone that I want to know what the issues are, what's bothering our people, what could be done better, and then start to fight and advocate for that. I think step one, to answer the question directly, would be making sure that everyone knows that I'm their representative. And I heard Councilwoman Beliska say tonight that, she's reachable at any time. That's certainly the same view that I would take. I want everyone to feel like they can call me, email me, tell me what their issue is, and let's figure it out and fight for it. So, the first thing I would do is just make sure everyone knows that I'm there for them.
Thank you. Rupa Kale.
I would say my biggest thing is to improve our communications, just create a better website. That's something I would really dive into. And just be more proactive with our communication. Let's not put out a release after 100 people have complained about it on the community forum. Let's just get ahead of whatever issue it is. That's something that I'm really passionate about. I would love to see people be more informed about how our government functions, who is in charge of what, where, and how. I'm a local realtor. My number is everywhere and people call me all the time and none of that would change. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane?
Well, I think I actually had my first day as an elected official, or as an official back in January. What would my first priority be? I would try to continue working on the committees that I have been assigned. I would try to close the loops and to get more people involved. I would try to do something that we've done on the PTSA and the PTAs, and be an advocate on social media to have people go to official websites and get the true story there, and have the people who are running those forums actually work with us doing that instead of just letting things go in a different direction. And I would just, continue to try to be accessible and to do as best I can for this town that we all love so much.
Thank you. Alex?
The first thing, several things that I would do immediately is, as we all said, high density housing will be an impact, and our wastewater treatment plant can only handle so much. So seeing the impact of that, working with borough engineers or even outside engineers that are required to look at a feasibility study of how do we approach and what do we need to do with our treatment plant, especially if we're going to be expanding as a town. Second thing, energy reduction. It's kind of in my wheelhouse. I try to save energy as much as I can at my workplace. It drives me nuts to see the tennis court lights on when we drive by on a rainy day and they're on. I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit here in town for us to save on energy, whether it's in our municipal buildings. Schools are doing a fine job. and find a way to take that savings and reinvest it into something like the community garden expansion or some other community activities. So I think I can hit the ground running on the infrastructure side of things.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now have the candidates' closing statements, beginning with Alexander Kogan.
Not me.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go a little bit off script here. As I sit here today, it's quite impressive for me. I'd be remiss not to thank my parents for having the opportunity to immigrate to the United States when I was 8.5 years old. We moved here from the former Soviet Union to seek the American dream, and just sitting here participating in this forum, I feel like that American dream has come true. And of course I can never repay them, but at the same time, perhaps providing a service to a local government is one way I can give back to the country I truly love and cherish. Back to the script. Hopefully you learned a little bit about my background today and see exactly how I can make an immediate impact on Borough Council due to my engineering background. I just don't check the box and say I serve on a committee. I add value and I lead constantly to make New Providence better. We live in a beautiful, vibrant, safe town, and I cherish that dearly, and I want to make it flourish even further. Throughout this campaign, my partner, Councilman Beliska, and I have focused on the positive aspects of our town and community. We will always strive to put all the residents' priorities first. My only request for all of you here in the audience and those watching on the video is to vote for the candidates that are most qualified and experienced to manage our precious tax dollars and our physical plan. This, as the mayor said, this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is simply who's most qualified to lead. And all I ask is to please vote for us in column A on election day. Thank you.
Thank you. Rupa Kale.
Thank you all for your patience so far, especially through the technical difficulties. Someone asked me the other day if I was a glutton for punishment, and I'm here to tell you wholeheartedly that I'm proud to be a resource for residents in the borough, and I'm often called on to help resolve disputes, offer advice, or suggest solutions. My years of service and involvement in the community have given me valuable insight, and I'm honored to be a voice that represents many families in town. My background is in accounting, finance, and business, including 12 years in corporate finance and 5 years as a small business owner, opening the first of its kind business in New Jersey. That experience pushed me both personally and professionally, and I had to break through some barriers, including getting laws changed so that we and businesses like myself could operate. I've been a local realtor for the past 4 years, which has enabled me to get a good feel for all parts and people in the borough. I love New Providence, like everyone else. I want to see it continue to grow and thrive, and I believe the best way to do that is to inject some fresh eyes and new voices in the mix. If you know me, you know I am persistent, meticulous, and enthusiastic. I come from a place of yes, and I get stuff done. I'd be honored to get to apply those skills on council and help lead our town into the future. Thank you for your time, and I ask for your vote for myself, Tommy, and Harry on November 8th.
Thank you. Tommy DiCataldo.
When I made my opening remarks today, I wanted you all to get to know me, but now I want to talk about why you shouldn't trust me with your vote in November. In my divorce work, I always try to encourage my clients, even though it's not instinctual for them, don't tell me why the other party's bad. Tell me why you're good and why you're right and why our position is strong. I think that as a candidate for Borough Council, I bring a tremendous amount of professional experience. I'm the president and chair of 2 major family law organizations, the Essex County Bar's Family Law Section and the North Jersey Barry Crowell Inn of Court. I conduct trainings once a month for judges and experienced matrimonial lawyers. I'm a trustee of the Union and Essex County Bar. I'm a volunteer settlement panelist in Essex and Union County. I'm so invested in conflict resolution and solving problems, I voluntarily spent a weekend at Harvard Law School taking their negotiation training seminar. And that's the only way I would ever get on Harvard's campus, so I was happy to do it. I'm an executive board member of the City of Summit's Bar. I'm on the New Jersey State Bar's Family Law Executive Committee. I help them assess whether we should take positions before the Supreme Court, and I review legislation. Every single one of those organizations functions very similar to Borough Council. I deal in conflict every single day. I'm calm, I'm poised, I'm prepared. It doesn't faze me one iota, and I would love to put those skills to work for this community. I think this town would be hard-pressed to find 2 people that care about it more than Rupa and Harry. I really am asking all of you to give us your vote in November. I want you to come to me if you're unhappy or having a problem. I want to put my skills to work for this borough, and I really sincerely thank everyone for the opportunity tonight.
Thank you, Diane.
I have worn many hats, and these hats are a tremendous asset as a councilwoman. Being able to pull from my experience as a resident, CPA, mom, teacher, volunteer, mentor, leader, and collaborator is invaluable in this job. I have worked with practically every age level in this town, from preschoolers and their caregivers, to the grammar schools, volunteering, coaching, or managing teams, to the high schoolers, teachers, staff, admin at NPHS and the Board of Ed, to the senior population working on one community for all. As a councilwoman, I am proud to be part of a team that has experience, proven leadership, and a solid track record of keeping the safety of our residents and community foremost in all of our actions. My finance background reminds me of the importance of a AAA bond rating and being fiscally responsible all the time. My geeky scholarly side, that history should always be remembered, and my creative side, to think out of the box. My grandmother came to America in 1916 via steerage class on a boat from Poland. My mom stretched every dime, but we never knew we were lacking anything. I am first generation to go to college. My kids have a more comfortable life than I did, but their core values lead them to be volunteers in our community whenever they can. A community is only as strong as the links that work to maintain it and move it forward. Thank you for your time. Please consider voting column A on election day or before.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Berkeley Heights, New Providence, and Summit, I hope you found this event an informative one. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties, you've heard that before. And fingers crossed, this will be up on a YouTube channel eventually. All I could say is that, but thank you again.